continue to celebrate America's 250th birthday this year, and we do so through our continuing series, We the People.
So today, a building in Lake County is nearly that old as well. First at 4, Katie Tursick takes us inside its history.
More than 200 years ago, a man named Joseph Ryder left Connecticut. He ended up here in Northeast Ohio and built something that has withstood the test of time. The Ryder's Inn in Painesville, the 206-year-old building, is now an historic landmark.
My grandmother was Nellie Ryder, one of the last generations of Ryders born here, tracking back to my 5th generation descent of Joseph Ryder, the founder.
Bill Sawyer is a direct descendant of Joseph Ryder. Wednesday, he witnessed another feat for the beloved restaurant, the reopening of Ryder's Inn. The Menor Avenue staple first opened its doors in 1818. It first served as a stagecoach stop for travelers on their way from Cleveland to Buffalo. At times, Sawyer says more than 100 would come by. Also, the inn was rumored to be a speakeasy during Prohibition.
The first one is actually a photograph of the original tavern.
Sawyer brought old family photos and documents to help tell the story of the Ryder's Inn. Pictures of relatives who actually lived inside these walls.
There were, a lot of rooms to play in, and there was, at the time there was a lot of land to actually run around. There were barns in back.
Joseph Ryder's father fought in the Revolutionary War. Now, as America marks its 250th birthday, his family's inn is open again under new owners.
A reopening and a rejuvenation, and especially in at the 250th anniversary too, which is it. So because Joseph Ryder's father actually was a Revolutionary War soldier too, which kind of brings it all home.
For Bill Sawyer, standing here today isn't just a celebration. It's a homecoming 2 centuries in the making. Katie Tursick, 19 News.
Now you're